Welcome to My Expat Stories. Today we hear from a sales director from London who believed he'd found the perfect investment opportunity. A luxury condominium development in Bangkok promised high returns, professional contracts, and a foothold in one of Asia's most dynamic property markets. But the impressive showroom, the construction site, and the legally binding contracts were all part of an elaborate performance that would cost him £105,000 and 20 years of savings. Here's his story. I'm Richard. I'm 48 and I stood in an empty office on the 8th floor of a building on Sukhumvit Road, staring at bare walls and wires hanging from the ceiling. This was supposed to be the sales office of Siam Property Group, the office where I'd signed contracts 9 months earlier, where I'd shaken hands with Sirawan and believed I was buying 2 condominium units. Except now there was nothing. No furniture, no logo on the door, no sign anyone had ever been here. And £105,000 of my money was somewhere in Thailand with people who probably weren't even called Sirawan or David. Let me tell you how they did it. I work as a sales director for a technology company in London. I've been in sales for over 20 years. I've done well for myself. I earn a good salary. I own my flat in Clapham. And I'd built up savings of around £140,000, 20 years of bonuses, of saying no to expensive holidays, of watching my money grow slowly but steadily. I've always been interested in property investment. I've watched mates buy flats in London, rent them out, build substantial wealth over time. But London property prices had become so insane that even with my savings, the returns didn't make sense anymore. A studio flat in Zone 3 for £400,000. It was madness. In September 2023, I attended a property investment seminar in central London. It was advertised as an event for people interested in overseas property opportunities. I'd seen similar seminars before, but had never attended one. This time, something made me sign up. Perhaps I was feeling frustrated with the UK property market, or perhaps I was just curious. Either way, I went. The seminar was held in a conference room at a nice hotel near Liverpool Street. About 40 people in attendance. Mostly men in their 40s and 50s who looked exactly like me. Professional. Well-dressed, probably all sitting on savings that weren't doing anything useful. The presenter was a British man named David, probably mid-50s. Confident. Well-spoken. He said he specialised in helping UK investors find opportunities in Southeast Asia. He talked about property markets in Thailand, Vietnam, and Malaysia. He showed graphs demonstrating how property values in Bangkok risen by 60% over the past decade. He talked about rental yields, capital appreciation, and the growing middle class in Thailand. What caught my attention was his presentation on off-plan condominium investments in Bangkok. He explained that developers would sell units before construction was complete, often at a discount of 20 to 30% below the finished market value. Investors could reserve units with relatively small deposits, make staged payments during construction, and then either sell the unit upon completion for a profit or rent it out for ongoing income. He said some of his clients had made returns of 40 to 50% within 2 years. 40 to 50%. My savings account was giving me 1%. He showed photos of completed developments in Bangkok. Modern glass towers with swimming pools, gyms, stunning views of the city skyline. He said foreigners were legally allowed to own condominium units in Thailand, as long as foreign ownership in the building didn't exceed 49%. He made it sound straightforward, legitimate, highly profitable. At the end of the seminar, David offered one-on-one consultations for anyone interested in learning more. I signed up immediately. We met a week later at a coffee shop in Canary Wharf. David brought a folder full of brochures and information about various developments. He asked about my financial situation, my investment goals, my risk tolerance. I told him I had around £140,000 available to invest. I was looking for something that could generate either significant capital growth or reliable rental income. David said he had the perfect opportunity for me. A new development called Sukhumvit Residence, located on Sukhumvit Road in central Bangkok. He said it was being built by an established Thai developer and construction was already underway. The building would have 35 floors, 280 units ranging from studios to 3-bedroom apartments. The location was excellent, he said, close to BTS stations, shopping centres, international schools. He said units were selling quickly. There were only a limited number available to foreign investors. He showed me the brochure, It was professionally designed, glossy, expensive looking. Photos of the architectural renderings, floor plans, artist impressions of the finished interiors. The prices seemed reasonable compared to London. A one-bedroom unit was listed at 4.5 million baht, roughly £105,000. A two-bedroom unit was 7.8 million baht, around £180,000. David said if I reserved units now, I could lock in the current prices. He said once construction was further along, prices would increase by at least 20%, maybe more. He explained the payment structure. I'd need to pay a reservation fee of 10% to secure the unit. Then, over the next 18 months during construction, I'd make staged payments totaling another 40%. The remaining 50% would be due upon completion, which could be financed through a Thai bank mortgage if I wanted. He said many investors sold their units before completion, so they never had to pay the final 50%. They just pocketed the capital gain and walked away with pure profit. I asked David how I could verify that this development was legitimate. He said I could visit Bangkok myself and see the construction site. He also said I could hire an independent lawyer in Thailand to review the contracts. He gave me the contact details for a law firm in Bangkok that specialised in property transactions for foreign buyers. He said they could conduct due diligence on the developer and ensure everything was legally sound. I was intrigued but cautious. I told David I needed time to think about it and do my own research. He said that was completely understandable. Very sensible, actually. But then he mentioned something that planted urgency in my brain. He said the developer was releasing units in phases. The current phase was almost sold out. He said if I wanted to secure a good unit, I should move relatively quickly. He gave me his card and said to contact him when I was ready. Over the next 2 weeks, I researched the Bangkok property market extensively. I read articles about foreign property ownership in Thailand. I looked at property websites showing condominiums for sale in Bangkok. Everything seemed to support what David had told me. Bangkok was a growing city. Property values were rising. Strong demand from both locals and expats. The numbers made sense. The opportunity looked real. I contacted the law firm David had recommended. I spoke with a lawyer named James, a British expat who said he'd been living in Bangkok for 15 years. He sounded professional, knowledgeable, trustworthy. He said his firm handled property transactions for foreign clients regularly. He said buying off plan in Bangkok could be a good investment, but it was important to verify the developer's track record and ensure all contracts were properly drafted. He offered to conduct due diligence on Sukhumvit residents for a fee of £1,200. I agreed and transferred the money. A week later, James sent me a detailed report. He said he'd verified that the developer, a company called Siam Property Group, was registered with the Thai authorities. He said they'd completed 3 previous developments in Bangkok, all delivered on time. He said the land where Sukhumvit residence was being built was properly titled. The construction permits were in order. He said based on his review, the project appeared legitimate. He recommended that if I decided to proceed, I should ensure all payments were made to the developer's official company account, that I should receive proper receipts and documentation for everything. That gave me the confidence I needed. I contacted David and told him I was ready to move forward. I said I wanted to reserve 2 one-bedroom units. David seemed pleased. He said buying 2 units was a smart strategy because it'd diversify my holdings within the development. He said the total cost for 2 units would be 9 million baht, roughly £210,000. But I'd only need to pay the reservation fees now, 10% of that amount. That worked out to 900,000 baht, about £21,000. David said the next step was for me to travel to Bangkok to visit the sales office, sign the contracts and make the payment. He said the developer required buyers to sign the contracts in person at their Bangkok office. He said this was standard practice to prevent fraud and ensure that buyers fully understood what they were purchasing. The irony of that statement still makes me sick. I booked a flight to Bangkok for late October 2023. I arranged to take a week off work. I was excited but also nervous. This was the biggest investment I'd ever made. I landed in Bangkok on a Tuesday evening. The city was hot, humid, buzzing with energy. I'd been to Bangkok once before, about 10 years earlier, for a short holiday. I remembered liking it, but I hadn't paid much attention to the property market back then. I checked into my hotel near Sukhumvit Road. David had arranged for me to meet with the developer's sales team the following afternoon. That gave me time to visit the construction site myself. The next morning, I took a taxi to the address listed on the brochure. It was on Sukhumvit Soi 39, a side street off the main Sukhumvit road. When I arrived, I saw a large construction site surrounded by metal fencing. There were workers on site, cranes moving materials, concrete pillars rising from the ground. It looked like a real construction project. That reassured me completely. I walked around the perimeter of the site, taking photos on my phone. There was a large professional-looking sign at the entrance displaying the project name, Sukhumvit Residence, along with an artist's rendering of the finished building. The sign also listed the developer's name, Siam Property Group. Everything matched what I'd been told. Everything looked legitimate. I felt confident that this was real. That afternoon, I took a taxi to the sales office. The address was in a modern office building on Sukhumvit Road, about 15 minutes from the construction site. I took the elevator to the 8th floor and found the office. The entrance had the Siam Property Group logo on the glass door. Expensive looking. Professional. I walked in and was greeted by a receptionist, a young Thai woman who spoke excellent English. She asked if I had an appointment. I told her I was meeting with the sales team. She checked her computer and nodded. She asked me to take a seat and said someone would be with me shortly. The office was impressive. Modern design with polished floors, comfortable leather seating, large monitors on the walls displaying videos of the Sukhumvit Residence project. There were scale models of the building on display, showing the layout of the floors and the surrounding area. Everything looked professional and legitimate. This wasn't some dodgy operation. This was a real company. After about 10 minutes, a Thai woman in her mid-30s approached me. She was wearing a tailored business suit, hair pulled back, looking every bit the senior executive. She introduced herself as Sirawan, the senior sales director. She shook my hand firmly and welcomed me. She said David had told her about me. She was pleased to meet me in person. Her English was flawless. British accent, actually. She said she'd studied at LSE in London years ago. She led me to a private meeting room. Inside the room, there was a large table with brochures, floor plans, and documents laid out. Sirawan offered me a drink. I asked for water. She sat down across from me and began her presentation. She thanked me for my interest in Sukhumvit Residence and said it was one of their most exciting projects. She showed me updated architectural plans and explained the amenities the building would have. Rooftop pool, fitness centre, co-working spaces, 24-hour security, covered parking. She said the location was ideal for both rental income and personal use. She said expats loved this area. Young professionals, families with kids in international schools. The units would be easy to rent. She then showed me the specific units I was interested in. 2 one-bedroom units on different floors. She pulled up floor plans showing the layouts, the sizes, the views. She said both units face south, which meant they'd get good natural light without too much direct sun. She said these were premium units, among the last available in the current phase. That urgency again. I asked Siriwan about the timeline. She said construction had started 6 months ago. The project was on schedule to be completed in 18 months. The building would be ready for occupancy by mid-2025. She showed me photos of the current construction progress, which matched what I'd seen that morning at the site. The photos looked recent. Everything lined up perfectly. I asked about the payment structure. Sirawan confirmed what David had told me, 10% reservation fee today, then staged payments over the next 18 months totaling 40%, final 50% upon completion. She said all payments would be made to the company's official bank account. I'd receive official receipts for everything. She said once the contracts were signed and the reservation fee was paid, the units would be legally reserved in my name. No one else could purchase them. I asked if I could have the contracts reviewed by my lawyer before signing. Sirawan said of course. She said that was exactly what she recommended. Very professional. She gave me printed copies of the contracts. About 30 pages each, written in both Thai and English. She said I should take my time, review them carefully. If I had any questions, I should contact her. She gave me her business card with her phone number and email address. I thanked Siriwan and left the office. I went back to my hotel and immediately scanned the contracts and emailed them to James, the lawyer in Bangkok who'd done the due diligence. I asked him to review them and let me know if there were any issues. James replied the next morning. He said he'd reviewed the contracts. They appeared to be standard property purchase agreements for off-plan developments in Thailand. He said the terms were fair. The legal language was appropriate. He saw no red flags. He recommended that I proceed if I was comfortable with the investment. That gave me the final push I needed. I contacted Siriwan and told her I was ready to sign the contracts and make the payment. We arranged to meet again the following day. We met at the sales office again. This time there was another person present, a Thai man in his late 30s. Siriwan introduced him as Wichai, the company's legal officer. He'd be witnessing the contract signing and ensuring everything was done correctly. He was professional, polite, spoke decent English. Another layer of legitimacy. Siriwan laid out both contracts on the table. She went through them page by page, explaining each clause, the purchase price, the payment schedule, the completion date, the specifications of the units, the penalties for late payments or cancellations. Everything seemed clear and straightforward, which I added legal explanations where necessary, clarifying terms related to Thai property law and foreign ownership. He made it sound so official, so binding, so real. I signed both contracts, my hands steady, my mind confident. Siriwan and Wichai witnessed my signatures and signed as well. Wichai stamped the documents with an official-looking company seal. I was given copies of both signed contracts, along with receipts showing that the contracts had been registered. Siriwan then explained how to make the payment. She said I needed to transfer 900,000 baht to the company's bank account. She gave me a document with the bank details. The account was registered under Siam Property Group Limited. She said once the payment was received, they'd issue an official receipt and send me confirmation that the units were reserved in my name. I asked if I could make the transfer from my UK bank. Siriwan said yes, but she warned that international transfers could take several days and the exchange rates might not be favourable. She suggested I could go to a Thai bank and make the transfer locally, which would be faster and cheaper. She recommended a bank branch nearby that handled foreign currency exchanges. I agreed to do that. Siriwan walked me to the elevator. She shook my hand and congratulated me on my purchase. She said I'd made a smart investment. She looked forward to working with me over the coming months. She said if I had any questions or concerns, I should contact her directly any time. I left the office feeling excited and confident. I just secured 2 condominium units in Bangkok. If everything went as planned, I'd see significant returns within 2 years. I felt like I'd finally made a smart financial move. I went to the bank Siriwan had recommended, large branch of Bangkok Bank, one of the major Thai banks. I went to the foreign exchange counter and explained that I needed to transfer money from my UK bank account to a Thai company account. The bank officer helped me set up the transfer. I provided the account details Siriwan had given me. The officer confirmed that the account was registered under Siam Property Group Limited. That reassured me even more. Everything was official. I authorised the transfer of £21,000, which converted to approximately 900,000 baht. The officer gave me a receipt and said the transfer would be completed within 24 hours. I spent the rest of that day and the following day exploring Bangkok. I visited the construction site again, took more photos, imagined what the finished building would look like. I walked around the neighbourhood, noting the restaurants, shops, transport links. The area was vibrant and well connected. I felt confident that the units would be easy to rent out once the building was completed. I even started researching furniture packages and interior designers. 2 days later, I received an email from Siriwan. She confirmed that the payment had been received. She attached an official receipt showing the amount paid and the reservation of the 2 units in my name. She said the next payment would be due in 3 months, which would be 20% of the total purchase price. 1.8 million baht, roughly £42,000. She said they'd send me a reminder 1 month before the payment was due. She thanked me again for my investment and said she'd keep me updated on the construction progress. I flew back to London feeling incredibly positive. I'd taken a big step, but everything had been handled professionally. The developer was legitimate, the contracts were legally sound, the construction was underway. I told a few close mates about the investment. They were impressed. Some of them even asked for David's contact details because they were interested in similar opportunities. I felt proud. I felt smart. Over the next 3 months, I received regular updates from Siriwan. She sent photos of the construction progress every few weeks, showing the concrete structure rising floor by floor. She sent newsletters with information about the Bangkok property market and updates on sales at Sukhumvit residence. Everything seemed to be progressing smoothly. Perfectly even. In late January 2024, I received an email reminding me that the next payment was due in 1 month. The amount was 1.8 million baht, about £42,000. I'd been expecting this. I'd set aside the money. I contacted Siriwan to confirm the payment details. She replied quickly, providing the same bank account information as before. She said once the payment was made, I'd receive another official receipt and updated contracts showing the increased equity in the units. In late February, I made the second payment. I used the same process as before, transferring the money from my UK bank to the Thai company account. The transfer went through smoothly. Within 2 days, Siriwan confirmed receipt. She sent me the updated receipt and thanked me for my continued commitment to the project. She said the building was now 40% complete. They were ahead of schedule. She sent new photos showing significant progress. The structure was now visible from street level. The shape of the building was starting to take form. I felt great about the investment. Everything was going exactly as planned, better than planned. I'd now paid a total of £63,000, 30% of the total purchase price. I had one more staged payment to make in another 3 months. Then I just need to arrange financing for the final 50% upon completion. I started researching Thai banks that offered mortgages to foreign buyers. Several banks advertised loan products for expats and foreign property investors. It all seemed feasible. In May 2024, I received another email from Siriwan. She said the third payment was due in 1 month. This would be the final staged payment before completion. The amount was 1.8 million baht again, another £42,000. She said once this payment was made, I'd have paid 50% of the total purchase price. I'd be well positioned to either sell the units before completion or arrange financing for the final payment. She said some investors were already negotiating sales at 20% above purchase price. I started calculating my potential profit constantly. I made the third payment in early June. By this point, I'd paid a total of £105,000. I had £35,000 left in my savings, which I was keeping as a reserve for other expenses and as a buffer in case anything unexpected happened. But everything continued to go smoothly. Siriwan sent the receipt and more construction photos. The building was now 65% complete. The exterior walls were going up, windows being installed. It looked impressive. It looked real. Around this time, I started planning a second trip to Bangkok. I wanted to see the progress in person and start thinking about how I'd furnish the units once they were completed. Maybe even meet some property management companies. I mentioned this to Siriwan in an email. She said that was a great idea. She said I could visit the site and even see some of the show units they were preparing on the lower floors. She said if I let her know when I was coming, she'd arrange a personal site visit. I booked a trip for late July 2024. I was excited to see how much progress had been made. I landed in Bangkok on a Saturday afternoon, checked into the same hotel I'd stayed at before. The next morning, I took a taxi to the construction site on Sukhumvit Soi 39. As the taxi turned onto the street, I felt a surge of anticipation. I was eager to see my investment taking shape. But when we arrived at the address, my heart stopped. The construction site was empty. Completely empty. There were no workers, no cranes, no activity, no building rising into the sky. The metal fencing was still there, but inside the perimeter, there was nothing but an empty lot with some concrete foundations that looked old and weathered. It looked like work had stopped months ago, maybe longer. I got out of the taxi and walked to the gate, my legs feeling weak. It was locked with a heavy chain and rust. I stared through the gaps in the fencing, trying to make sense of what I was seeing, my brain refusing to process the reality. I felt panic rising in my chest like water filling my lungs. This couldn't be right. Maybe I had the wrong address. Please let me have the wrong address. I checked the address on my phone against the address on the brochure. It was the same. This was definitely the location. But where was the building? Where were the workers? Where was my 65% complete building? I walked around the perimeter, looking for any signs of activity or explanation. There was nothing. The site was abandoned. Dead. I immediately called Siriwan. The phone rang several times. No one answered. I tried again. Same result. I sent her a text message saying I was at the construction site and needed to speak with her urgently. No response. I tried calling the sales office number that was listed on the brochure. The number was disconnected. A recorded message in Thai. I felt sick. Physically sick. I took a taxi to the office building where the sales office had been located. I went up to the 8th floor. The office was gone. The space was completely empty. Only bare walls and wires hanging from the ceiling, like dead snakes. The Siam Property Group logo that had been on the glass door was gone. There was no sign that anyone had ever been there. I asked the building security guard what had happened to the office. He said in broken English that the tenants had left about 2 months ago. He didn't know where they'd gone. Just gone. I went back to my hotel room, barely able to breathe. I pulled out my laptop and started searching for information about Siam Property Group. I searched for their website. The website was no longer online. Dead link. I searched for news articles about Sukhumvit residents. Nothing. Not a single mention. I searched for the company registration that James had verified. I couldn't find anything. The registration number led nowhere. I tried calling James, the lawyer who'd done the due diligence. His phone number was also disconnected. I realised with absolute horror that I'd been scammed. Everything had been fake. The sales office, the contracts, the construction site, the progress photos. It had all been an elaborate setup. Siriwan, Wichai, David and James. They were all part of it. They'd created an entire fake property development, complete with professional brochures, legal documents, rented office space, staged construction photos. They'd taken £105,000 from me, and they disappeared like smoke. I went to the nearest police station. I tried to explain what had happened, but the language barrier made it difficult. The officer I spoke to didn't seem to understand the complexity of the situation. He took down some basic information and gave me a report number, but he didn't seem optimistic about recovering the money. He kept shrugging. He suggested I contact the British Embassy. I went to the British Embassy the next day, explained the situation to a consular officer. She was sympathetic but brutally honest. She said scams like this were increasingly common in Bangkok, particularly targeting foreign property investors. She said the scammers were often sophisticated, using fake companies, fake lawyers, fake documentation to appear legitimate. She said the chances of recovering the money were very low. Almost zero. The scammers likely moved the funds out of Thailand immediately. They were probably operating under false identities. She gave me information about Thai lawyers who specialised in fraud cases, but she warned me that pursuing legal action would be expensive and time-consuming. No guarantee of success. She'd clearly given this speech before. I spent the next few days in Bangkok trying to find any trace of Siriwan, Wichai, or the company. I went back to the bank where I'd made the transfers. The bank confirmed that the account I'd transferred money to was registered under Siam Property Group Limited. But the account had been closed 2 months ago. All the funds had been withdrawn. The bank said they couldn't provide any further information due to privacy laws. Dead end. I contacted David, the man who'd introduced me to the investment at the seminar in London. His phone number was disconnected. His email address bounced back. I searched for him online and found nothing. He'd vanished just like the others. I realised that the entire operation, from the seminar in London to the sales office in Bangkok, had been carefully orchestrated. They'd targeted people like me, professionals with savings, looking for investment opportunities, willing to trust what appeared to be legitimate. I flew back to London, devastated. I'd lost £105,000, nearly all of my savings, money I'd worked 20 years to accumulate, every bonus, every pay rise, every bit of overtime. Gone. I felt stupid, ashamed, angry. I'd done everything I thought I was supposed to do. I'd hired a lawyer to do due diligence. I'd visited the site in person. I'd signed contracts and received official receipts. But it had all been fake. Every single piece of it. I reported the fraud to Action Fraud in the UK. They took my statement and gave me a crime reference number. But they said that because the crime occurred in Thailand, there was little they could do. They suggested I work with Thai authorities. But as I'd already discovered, that was nearly impossible. I contacted my bank to see if the transfers could be reversed. They said once the funds had been received and withdrawn by the recipient, there was nothing they could do. Nothing. Zero. Gone. Over the following months, I tried everything I could think of to recover the money. I hired a Thai lawyer who specialised in fraud cases. He charged me £3,000 up front and spent 2 months investigating. He eventually told me that the company registration I'd been shown was fake. The construction site had never been associated with any legitimate development. The people I'd dealt with were likely using false identities. He said pursuing the case further would cost tens of thousands of pounds with almost no chance of success. I gave up. The financial loss was devastating. But the psychological impact was worse. I'd always considered myself intelligent and careful. I worked in sales, for crying out loud. I understood how persuasion and manipulation worked. I taught people these techniques, but I'd been completely taken in. The scammers had exploited my desire for financial security and my trust in professional-looking documentation. They'd created an illusion so convincing that even a lawyer had been fooled. Or the lawyer was part of it. I'll never know. I had to rebuild my life from almost nothing. I still had my job and my flat, but my savings were gone. I could no longer afford to retire early as I'd planned. I couldn't afford to take risks or make investments. I felt like I'd been set back 20 years financially. The shame and embarrassment were overwhelming. I told very few people what had happened because I didn't want to be judged as foolish or naive, because that's exactly how I felt. It's been several months now. I'm slowly starting to recover emotionally. I've accepted that the money's gone and I'll never get it back. I've learned an expensive lesson about trust, about verification, about the lengths that criminals will go to in order to steal from innocent people. £105,000. That's what it cost me to learn that the sophisticated woman who showed me floor plans and construction photos and spoke with a British accent was a professional con artist who'd done this before and would probably do it again. That's my story. I handed over my entire life savings to a woman who staged the perfect property development. I hope sharing this prevents someone else from doing the same. Thanks for sharing, Richard. The fake property development scam is one of the most sophisticated cons in Bangkok because everything looks real until it isn't. Richard lost everything to a woman who knew exactly how to make a successful sales director believe he'd finally found the perfect investment. This is my Thailand stories. See you in the next one.